there is a murder of a girl mentioned in the articles about Zombieland I inboxed you on Facebook, a girl named Shannon Cause. She was 5 or 6 years younger than me, and we grew up on opposite sides and opposite ends of the block. She on Midlothian Boulevard, I on East Justin Avenue. I knew her because she played with the younger kids on both sides of the block, and we sometimes all played hide and seek together. After graduation, I was attending college at Youngstown State University, pre-med, thinking of becoming a medical examiner. I got a job, aged 18, at a now defunct livery service. A livery service rents limousines and hearses to funeral homes, and some, like the one I worked for, did body removals for some of the funeral homes. Being too young to drive the hearses and limos, I was exclusively removal crew. I had been working for the livery service for nearly a year when I got an unusual removal across my pager. A pickup at a coroner's office in western Pennsylvania for Kirilla Funeral Home. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. It had been years since I had seen Shannon. My partner and I picked up the body in Philadelphia and returned to Ohio, and brought the body into Kirilla's on our wheeled stretcher. The elevator was broken, so I had to climb down the ladder in the elevator shaft, and her body, still in the bag, was carefully handed down to me, and I carried her into the embalming room of Kirilla's. I remember thinking to myself how small and frail she felt. Part of my job was to remove clothing or body bags and place special blocks under the head and arms of the deceased in preparation for embalming. I was unzipping the bag when my partner and the funeral director joined me in the embalming room. I folded back the flap of the body bag and felt weak in the knees. I recognized her. The click was almost audible when I realized who she was and how I knew her. I reeled and staggered back a few steps. My boss and partner grabbed me to keep me from falling. After explaining my reaction, the three of us took a few minutes to compose ourselves and return to the task at hand. That day, I saw what those monsters did to that poor sweet girl. 3 young men in their early 20s saw 13-year-old Shannon at a local laundromat. They somehow got out to leave with the 3 of them. Once she was in the car, they took her to Zombieland, where the 3 men took turns raping and brutalizing her. When they had their fill, they stabbed her numerous times, mostly in her arms as she tried to protect herself. They slit her throat deeply from ear to ear and left her small body in a ditch where she lay overnight. They returned the next day with a gas can, poured gasoline over her, and set her on fire. The gas burned off and the fire went out, doing little damage. The flames caused some minor skin peeling, similar to how you peel after a sunburn. The most severe damage done by fire was to her right ear, which was burned black. It reminded me of the way a marshmallow looks after you catch it on fire. Those animals had raped, tortured, and murdered a girl that hadn't even hit puberty. I went home after that removal and cried for almost an hour, my head in my grandmother's lap. As awful as this story is, it isn't over yet. When the 3 men were arrested, their mugshots were all over the news. The first time I saw the mugshots, my knees went weak and I sat down hard on the floor. I knew those men. As it turns out, they were friends of my cousins, had been at my cousin's home, and I hung out with them there. I had also partied with them several times in the year leading up to the kidnap murder. The leader of the pack, Billy Monday, had dated my friend Linda. I had declined an offer to go party with them in Zombieland about 6 weeks before Shannon's murder because Linda wasn't going and Linda had broken up with him about 4 weeks before, because he'd become abusive. It chills me to the bone to think what happened to Shannon might have happened to me had I gone alone with those creeps. They had been planning to kill someone for some time because they wanted to know what it felt like. Their thrill kill hit too close for comfort. I think most people know where they rank in terms of their looks. I, for example, know that I'm about 6 or 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most attractive. But I was a late bloomer, and in high school, I was a 3 or 4. Much worse than now. You'd be surprised what regular exercise and healthy food can do for you. Back in the days, I was just your average high school girl. I wasn't popular by any means, but I was never bullied and my life was very bland. I had a tight-knit group of friends that I hung out with. I remember we did the same thing every day, but it was so much fun. I guess at that age, just being with your friends is good enough. In school, we had this weird group of guys that no one ever spoke to. We used to call them the pedos because they looked too old to be in high school. They were all 1 or 2, but there was this one guy, his name was Marcus, that made the look scale irrelevant because he was more than a 10. You know how in the teen dramas, you see all those actors that look to be in their late 20s acting as teenagers. They're hot, but you know they're not in their teens. Well, Marcus was basically one of those TV characters that we were seeing in real life. Many girls lusted over his hunkiness, but I don't think any girl in the right mind would have gone out with him due to the negative attention that would draw. Think about it. No matter how good looking, would you really want to be the girlfriend of a guy who belongs in a group of guys who are known as the pedos in the entire school? Nah. And that's what I thought I would do too, until one day he made a move on me. I noticed during lunch he kept looking at me and smiling. That classic flirt, too obvious to misinterpret. Like I said, I was a 3 in high school, and the fact that a 10 plus was flirting with me was flattering. I was young and superficial. It felt nice. I normally walked home after school. It was only about a 15-minute walk, and half the way I was able to walk with my best friend Ellie, who lived a little closer to school than me. That day, when Marcus flirted with me, Ellie and I took the same walk home, but on this day, she kept on hitting my arm with her elbow without saying anything. I was like, ouch, bitch, what was that for? Psycho alert, pedo on the prowl, she said, pretending to look natural, but not really pulling it off. That's when I noticed Marcus walking about 20 yards behind us, and he smiled at me when we locked eyes. I smiled back at him without even realizing I made it very obvious I had a thing for him too. We were almost at Ellie's block when she says, "Come to my place and hang out with me. Leave when the pedo leaves." "It's alright, Ellie. He's not gonna do anything to me." I rejected the offer. "Do you want me to walk you home? I can ask my mom to pick me up later." Ellie kept insisting. To be honest, I was a little annoyed with Ellie. I couldn't wait for Ellie to go home so Marcus could approach me and ask me out on a date. That's exactly what happened once Ellie left, and on Saturday of the same week, Marcus and I went on our first date. Once I got to know him better, there was really no surprise. He was as weird as his friends, and he definitely belonged with them. He didn't talk much, and he had a weird habit of smelling my clothes, hair, and my hand sometimes. I didn't think it was too weird at the time, but I remember he used to say things like, "Once we graduate high school and move in together in our own apartment, we should get a dog and practice being parents." Creepy, right? But I didn't think so at the time. Again, I admit I was a shallow, superficial girl. His handsome face was more than enough to make everything okay. And another creepy thing he used to say was, "I want us to move far away from here. where no one can find us and we can be together all day, every day with no one to bother us. I didn't quite grasp it then, but he had already decided in his mind that I was his forever, and I was completely okay with that in my tender age of 16. So here comes high school graduation, and by this time, Marcus and I had been together for nearly 2 years. Aside from Ellie, all my other friends stopped hanging out with me because I was dating one of the pedos. I was okay with that because I still had Ellie. She would never hang out with Marcus. We tried it once and it was a disaster. But she never said no when I wanted to hang out with her on our own. I didn't hang out with the pedos either. I tried it a few times and I really hated them. When Marcus realized that, he stopped bringing his friends on our dates and that was good enough for me. So anyways, by graduation, my infatuation with Marcus had subsided dramatically. Our dates felt more like a repetition of a routine we've been performing for the past 2 years, and we just met because that's what we had done throughout high school. Marcus became more attached. He even tried to talk more because it was obvious I was losing interest in him. You know how people say looks aren't everything? Well, they're telling the truth. Here, I had this Brad Pitt, eat your heart out hunk, but I wasn't happy with him anymore because of his stoic personality and weird ways. After graduation, we had a huge fight. He spoke to me as if I had promised to spend the rest of my life with him. He was fully expecting me to move in with him and become domesticated as his stay-home wife. But I was excited for college and the world beyond our small town. I wasn't about to give that up for a handsome toaster. We broke up after that and I tried my best to explain to him that we were too young to settle down. We both had to explore the world and measure our potential against the rest of the world. But he would have none of it. He pestered me until I went off to college. It got so bad that one time when he came to my home, my dad had threatened him with a shotgun and my brother almost clocked him. His obsession for me continued through college. I went to a school more than 1,000 miles away from my hometown, but he made several journeys to come see me, and that didn't sit well with my new boyfriend. A year had passed and Marcus stopped coming. I felt relieved, and my boyfriend explained to me how boys tend to obsess a lot over their first girlfriends. He said I had nothing to worry about. After graduating college, I went on to become a realtor, and I was really good at it. So good that I postponed having children for my career. I married my first boyfriend from college, and we were like best friends who were also a couple. He was very understanding and respectful of my choices, so we were happy just the two of us until my 31st birthday, when my maternity clock set off an alarm in my womb. I wanted to have children, and up until then, I had no idea how much my husband wanted children because he cried when I told him I wanted to have at least 2. We got really busy in the bedroom for the next 3 years, and we had 2 handsome boys. Sure, we had the usual couples arguments here and there, but life was good. I couldn't possibly ask more of my husband, and my children were healthy and happy. A year ago, I quit my job to give the best care possible for my children. Ironically, I had become a stay-home wife, but not before I tasted success as a professional, and I was truly ready to become a full-time mother. One afternoon, the kids were asleep, and I was reading an article on a tablet when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and found a box. I was expecting a delivery from Amazon, but I knew the shipment wouldn't arrive until the next day. It was a red box, and it didn't have any labels that indicated it was from a company. I brought it in and opened it. Inside, I found a lock of hair, a black bra, and a pair of black panties, along with a neatly folded handwritten letter. The bra and the panty were the same ones I wore on the night I lost my virginity to Marcus. I remember going home that night without wearing any underwear, because it was mysteriously lost in his tiny bedroom after I took a shower. Marcus had kept it all along. He somehow found my address and delivered the box in person. I still shiver when I look back on that day. I won't transcribe the entire letter, but I'll include the part that frightened me the most. It read, "I know you still think about me every second of your life. I feel that in my heart. I know it because we're connected as one soul. I smell you every day to remember our night. I can still hear you moan out of pleasure and pain. It's enough for now to get me through the day. Do right by your husband and don't let him become a victim of our true love. We don't have to hurt him to make our dreams come true. I know you'll do the right thing, as you once have when you chose me to be your man when everyone else saw me as a creep. You always knew what was best for you, so I know you'll come back to me. I can't wait for the boys to meet their real dad. I will be such a good father to them. I love them so much." I'm sorry, but I can't read it any further. I feel like vomiting just looking at it. I keep a copy of it as evidence. The original copy is probably in some dingy evidence locker in a police station. I told my husband about it, we filed a police report, spoke to a detective, and we later found out that Marcus was like a ghost. He hadn't filed a personal income tax for over a decade, and the address on his driver's license was of his residence from many years ago. There was no way to track him down, so we did the only thing we could, and we moved to a place where he could never find us. It's been quiet for nearly a year, but I don't take this peacefulness for granted. I got a concealed carry license and I trained with a professional self-defense instructor who is trained in firearms and hand-to-hand combat on a weekly basis. There's not a second in my life when I'm fully relaxed. I haven't felt relaxation ever since receiving the box. My life will never be the same as long as he's alive. Is it terrible of me to think that I can find my happiness again only if he dies? Maybe so, but that's how I feel, and it's my reality. That is it for this video, and I hope you all have enjoyed it. I got two people to thank for this video. First, Kelly for providing me with the story of Shannon Cause, a real tragedy. Hopefully, the story will serve as a lesson for parents to be more vigilant and for our younger viewers to realize how dangerous it is to trust strangers. I would also like to say that I'm truly thankful that you, Miss Kelly, have made the right choice not to party with those guys when you were given the choice. I'm glad you're doing great. For the second story, I've got Miss Unknown to thank for. She does not wish to disclose her name for obvious reasons, and I'll of course respect that and honor that. Miss Unknown, I can't begin to imagine how terrified I would feel in your place, but my hope is that you'll gain more confidence in your own abilities to protect yourself and your family as you continue to train yourself in the art of self-defense. I really hope things will improve for you soon. And to wrap things up, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but for timely updates of new videos, please do follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Links are in the description. I'll be a lot more active on my social networking thingamajiggies from now on, so you can expect to see some unique contents from time to time. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and all them goodies. Until next time, goodbye.